Get us started, man.
Get us started. Hello. Thanks for tuning in to Weird Mythic Podcast. I'm just one of the hosts, Naomi, and I am always joined with the beautiful Serena. Hello, my friend.
Hi, friend.
Hey, howdy.
How's it going?
It's going. This lovely Saturday afternoon. Getting a little bit of a late start.
No, we're recording so late. I'll have time, though, to at least edit it and put it up by tomorrow, so that'll be good.
Yes, that is awesome. I know. I'm sorry. I won't be able to edit this one, definitely.
You're good.
Oh, shit. Well, do you have any plans this weekend, Serena? You doing anything exciting?
No,
Me either.
I'm not. No, I'm not. We might watch the fight tonight, but I don't really plan on it.
Oh,
so...
I definitely plan on it. Now that Diaz and Ferguson are fighting, I'm definitely watching it now. Like, I was already going to watch it when it was just Diaz and Hamza. I can't pronounce his last name very well, but I am very excited for these fights. I love Tony Ferguson and Nate Diaz, so I'm like, ooh, I don't know. So.
Well, Nate Diaz is always fun to watch. So.
Always. Come on.
We have to represent.
Yes.
So. Okay, well, this is a Weird Mythic Podcast, in case you guys forgot.
Weird Mythic Podcast.
And we are going to be talking about more cryptids today. This is going to be... Okay, so, remember we went to that True Crime Podcast Festival. We met two people, and they both gave us a recommendation, and we're going to be covering both of those today.
Yes,
so,
we are.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So,
go first.
I will go first.
I want to hear your pronunciation of things.
So, this cryptid, I believe it was recommended to us from Southern Gothic, who we met over there.
Mm-hmm.
And he suggested the New Orleans, Louisiana Rougarou. Have you ever heard of it? Before I get into it.
I've heard of it, but I haven't,
before we talked that we're going to cover it.
Yes, we talked. I think we talked about it that day too, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like, "Oh, I think it's like a boogeyman, right?"
Yeah,
it's like the version of the boogeyman or something like that.
Sort of, and I was a little bit right and a little bit wrong. So
okay,
yeah. So I got to learn.
Usually are.
Yeah, we always learn and that we're wrong a little bit. All right, so the Rougarou. First of all, you can spell Rougarou like 6 different ways, all right?
That doesn't help.
No, it doesn't, but it'll always take you to the same thing. So the way that I am spelling it in my own research, is Rougarou, Rougarou. Of course, you could spell it Rugaru. My favorite, even though I'm not gonna, put this into any of my research because the other way is much easier to, type out, is Rougarou, and it's French. It's Rouxgarous. So,
Okay.
the Rougarou, it does have French origins, and then it was brought over when everybody immigrated over to the States, and a lot of the French went over to Louisiana and settled in New Orleans. Loup-garou is French for the word wolf, which is just loup. Sorry, loup. Loup is French for wolf. Garou, Garou, is actually werewolf in French.
Okay.
So loup-garou and rougarou, you will see that they are used interchangeably in French and Louisiana. Cajun, they use loup-garou and rougarou. They're interchangeably. They're the same entity type creature. So, what does this thing look like? According to Cajun legends, this is a human type werewolf dog guy. He likes to prowl around the swamps and sugarcane fields, has bloodshot red eyes, does prowl on all fours. However, you will see it run at you and then all of a sudden stand up on its 2 hind legs, and it's more of like a human running at you. It is a blood-sucking creature.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's like a vampire werewolf.
It's like a werewolf. A lot of the stuff I was finding was like werewolf. Some of it, I immediately thought of the Michigan Dog Man. And you'll see why. So, I couldn't find like an exact origin or date of when people really started talking about rougarous and loup-garous. I just know that it came from France and then everybody immigrated. So I'm going to say like the 1700s, okay? Something very interesting about the rougarou. So when we usually do research or talk about cryptids, I don't find anything that's very concrete or something that's very specific to it. There seems to be a lot of multiple things that can go into a cryptid. Do you agree? Like how it's not just like one specific thing that can make you like into a Wendigo. Like if you become a Wendigo, it's usually because you're a cannibal or a witch or something else. But it can be more than one thing to turn you in to that skinwalker type.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at how many, like, when we research, for example, the Native American folklore, look how many different origins you have on one creature just given the region. Exactly. So I definitely agree with that.
Yes. So, but with the rougarou, there was something extremely specific and very matter of fact with it. So, in Catholicism, you have to go through Lent once a year, correct? Do you know what Lent is?
I mean, I always remember, like, growing up, people would, like, give something up for Lent. Exactly. So, yeah, but no.
Yes. So, I'm going to read something from one of my distant cousins. Her name's Iris, and she grew up in Louisiana and is very Catholic. So I asked her what Lent meant to her, and she said that Lent means different things to different Catholics. We, for what she believes in as a Catholic, we choose to give up something we love, like sugar, candy, or anything of importance, for 40 days. We also don't eat meat on Friday. But as a good Southern Catholic, it's a really good thing. We consume vast amounts of seafood, which is awesome. Our introduction to Lent each year is Fat Tuesday, better known as Mardi Gras. It's always the day before Ash Wednesday, which is the start of Lent. It is the day of festivities before the solemn 40 days of Lent. So Jesus walked in the desert for those 40 days and 40 nights and didn't have anything. So that is something that the Catholics are recreating and paying homage to during Lent. So that was her explanation of Lent to me, as she is on her way of practicing Catholicism. So Lent and Catholics, very important to the religion. The rougarou will hunt down Catholics who do not follow Lent for 7 years in a row. If the Catholic does not follow Lent the correct way for 7 years in a row, the rougarou will then go to that person and turn them into a rougarou for 101 days. After that 101 days, that person will either continue to be a rougarou at night, because you only use this thing at night. It's not during the day. It's not like all day you're a rougarou. It's at night. That person who did not follow Lent for those 7 years is now a rougarou. For 101 days, they either turn somebody else into one and they are no longer a rougarou, or they just stay rougarou for the rest of their life. And
that really is like werewolves. Like, that really is.
But I thought it was so odd that it was so specific. 7 years, did not follow Lent, 101 days you have to turn somebody else into a rougarou or you stay one. That's so very
I guess
specific.
Just make sure, like, by your 6th year, you really, like, do it right the next time. Because...
Right? But I'm like, I've never read something for any sort of cryptid that was so specific. So.
The weird thing to me, too, is, like, how do they know? Like, do they have, like, some kind of list that shows, like, every single Catholic that didn't follow it right for the last 7 years?
A list?
Like,
the Rougarous
have
like a list of who's following Lent. Oh, you know, for like the last Santa. 3 years, Naomi's really sucked at following, but this year she's doing great, so she could be off the list. Like,
or do they just like watch one person for that whole? Like, I just don't understand how they know.
They do
everything.
It's a mythical creature. They have these special abilities, man.
The logic just doesn't make sense to me, man.
the Rougarous do suck bloods of their victim like a vampire. I saw in a couple other sources that a witch, like a voodoo witch, could also turn somebody into a Rougarou, but I didn't find any specifics like the whole Catholic not following Lent for 7 years. It just said a witch could turn you into one.
Wow.
So, all right. So we'll go back a little bit for the history of what the Rougarou is. Like I said, it did start off in France, and it was more of like a shapeshifter type of the Loup-garou was more of a shapeshifter, which is what a Rougarou is pretty much, or at least I think
classified
so.
as?
Yeah.
Okay.
But one of the first stories, and it did come out of the Renaissance period, that there was this man, and he was driving down the highway, and obviously not in a car, but a little horse and buggy thing, going down the highway, and it hits a calf as he's, driving. All of a sudden hits a calf, and I'm like, well, it's got to be either one fast calf or one slow buggy. I don't know. So hits the calf. The calf is obviously injured, and the man ends up going over to where the calf was. But as soon as he gets out to go check on the calf, this thing out of nowhere So as he goes to look at the calf, he realized that it wasn't a calf. It was a man all of a sudden. And this man was uninjured and got up and walked away from him. And this man swore up and down. He's like, I did not hit a man. This was an animal. I thought it was a cow. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it's a man who just got up and walked away from the accident. So that was like the earliest story I could find in France of it. And a couple of the other like little myths that I saw, the Loup-garou was not a violent type of creature. It wasn't until it was like the Rougarou in New Orleans where it was all of a sudden it will attack you. You don't want to go outside because the Rougarou can get you. And that's really where the New Orleans Rougarou is. That is the story that people would tell their children. Don't go out into the woods at night. The Rougarou is going to get you. Hey, watch where you're going when you're walking home from school. It's starting to get dark later. Make sure the Rougarou doesn't get you. Don't stay too out late when it gets dark. The Rougarou is gonna get you.
Okay.
So, I do have... Let me see here. Alright, I do have something interesting if you're being followed by a Rougarou. And I don't know exactly how you know it's a Rougarou, except for the fact that it's extremely large. Every sighting that I found was a 7-foot tall dog-like creature. However, it will stalk you. So it might stalk you for a few days. And it might follow you home. And if you notice this Rougarou prowling and stalking you around your home, I know how to get rid of it. So listen.
Oh, here we go. Let me get my notebook.
Get your notebook. So I know how to get rid of it, or at least distract it is a much better word. I know how to distract it from it coming into your house and turning you into a Rougarou. What you got to do is place 13 small objects around the windows and doors of your home. Once the Rougarou comes into contact with these objects, he has to, unfortunately for the Rougarou, has to count all of these objects. Now, what's good on your part is the Rougarou cannot count past 12. So it gets frustrated and counts again, and will continue to count until the sun comes up and it turns back into its human form.
Okay, that reminds me of the gin, remember? Where you put, like, the broom outside of your door and it has to count all the bristles or whatever.
Yep, exactly. And I think there's others that it's like that has to stop and count them also.
For sure remember the gin.
I do too. So I thought, I'm like, okay, so I just got to keep, like, 12 small rocks and coins or 13 small rocks and coins near the windows, and then I'm safe.
Yeah.
All right, so... let's see here. Oh, I do have some information more in France. So I don't have my stuff printed out, guys, so I'm sorry if I'm a little bit all over the place. Usually I have it all mapped out, but at this moment I don't. So I do have something from 16th century France, and this is a Lougarou trial. So we talked about witch trials back in Europe and here in the States. Apparently there was some werewolf type trials back in France in the 16th century. And what would happen is they would arrest people who were found in the woods, or they would arrest a neighbor or somebody in the village who was acting very strangely. The court would simply ask, like, the villagers and people in the little, area if they believed the individual was a loup-garou, because there's no reason for somebody to be sleeping in the woods. There's no reason your neighbor all of a sudden should be acting strange, right? So, yeah, they would just have these trials, and then as soon as all the villagers would say yes, they would just lock up that person. They never, had them say, oh, I'm homeless and sleeping in the woods. Oh, I'm sorry, I was drunk the other night and acting weird. Sorry if I'm going through some shit. Not a loup-garou. But apparently that was just enough odd behavior to lock someone up. And it was mainly, people acting strange at night, because that's when you would become the loup-garou, is at night. So it's like, oh, you were sleeping in the woods because you were out, feasting on cattle, and then you passed out in the woods because you're a werewolf type creature. So yeah, that was about the only thing I found in France. Let me see. Okay, so let me get into a couple stories, stories that are pretty freaking recent. I got one from 2016, and I watched this YouTube video, which was 9 top Rougarou sightings. So I'll have to definitely, if you guys want that link, I do have it for you. So this one was called Who is Following Me? This was in 2016, and this guy and his mom were just on their property, and they noticed that all of a sudden their livestock was being eaten. And it wasn't just being eaten, it was, of course, draining of the blood. So this happened for about a year. So they started noticing their cattle and their livestock start to die randomly and unexpectedly for about a year. So that in 2017, him and his mom were at their home, and they heard something running from behind their house. And it was pretty dark, and they're like, okay, that's odd, but this might be what is getting our animals. Of course, they're thinking it's a wolf or some sort of predator. So they're paying attention to whatever it was running behind their house. And they could hear it was coming, up to the house. It wasn't just running behind the house. It was actually running around the house, coming up to the front door at this point.
Oh,
and they could not only hear it running, but they could actually hear it breathing and panting, like it was out of breath. So it's about 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're starting to hear growling at this point. They heard the running, they heard the out of breath. Now they're hearing growling. So the boy tells his mom, are you hearing that? She goes, yes. She goes to get a shotgun. They're out in the middle of nowhere, guys. So she goes to get her shotgun. Her son follows behind her with a flashlight. So they're going outside, and they see something in the grass. So they're kind of making their way over to the tall grass, and they see this creature. And they said it has this brown gray fur, and it is about 7 foot, with razor sharp claws and a hunched back. So this thing is on its hind legs with a hunched back and is 7 foot tall. That thing's definitely well over 7 foot tall if it has a hunched back. Once this creature noticed them, it took off running. The mom ends up trying to shoot at it, and she hit it. But the creature kept running. So the mom and son end up going back into the house. They call some relatives who live nearby and let them know what was going on. The next day, they could not find anything of this creature except for the fact that there was, obviously something running through the woods. You would see everything broken from the trees and the shrubbery. Everything was broken down, but they couldn't find anything else. They said in this video that to this day, they sometimes hear that panting outside their house.
Ew, that's so creepy.
Yes.
Panting. Oh my god, that's
awful. Where I'm the panting, and that's pretty creepy.
What if they went to church that following Sunday and somebody had injury that was from like a gun or something, then you would know.
That would be insane.
I was feeling like that's where it was going. Like,
Yeah.
they called the family to tell them what was happening, and they're like, we have to go to the hospital. We just got shot.
Right? Like, yo, our cousin was shot last night, and we don't know why. Like,
Right.
So I got one other story I want to go over, because this one really creeped me out. So this was about 7 years ago, and it takes place, I don't know if it's Louisiana, actually. Don't have where this one was. The last story was in Louisiana. So this one was just called My Experience with the Rougarou. So about 7 years ago, this guy is a camp counselor. He's about 18 years old, and he's been going to this camp forever, and he's finally old enough he can be a camp counselor there. And as he was a camper there, and even as a counselor, there was always these stories telling the kids, hey, you know, the nighttime, it's harmless. However, it's the things that are out there that are the things we need to watch out for. So that was something that was very much drilled into all the campers, all the counselors, like, don't be scared of the dark. However, you should be scared of the things that are in the dark. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that as a child without my parents around. Like, I can only imagine being a camper being like, I can't go outside. I should be scared of what's out there. Like, that already just creeps me out. So,
Something just paused really quick.
yeah.
Thank God we're not recording at our normal time, because I'm sitting in my bedroom and something is like tapping against the window.
Oh my gosh. It's not a black-eyed child, is it?
I'm not going to check.
They're gonna check.
But I can hear people in the other room, so I know nobody's outside of my window.
Oh, that's just fun. So,
Like, at least it's not dark outside.
so this guy is a counselor now, and everything's going fine up until the second week of camp. So the second week of camp, there was a boy camper who went missing, and they couldn't find him until 3 days later, when somebody unfortunately found this boy's body, and his entire arm was missing. Just the arm. And it looked like it was torn off. Surprisingly to me, they didn't end the camping. The camp kept going even after they found this boy with his arm tore off. Yeah.
I would have just gone home.
I was surprised that happened.
And
I was surprised that happened, but the guy telling the story was like, the cops came, they couldn't find anything, they still had another week or two left of camp. So, that was just the second week. Third week of camp comes around, and it's about 3 a.m., and there's this loud roar in one of the cabins right outside the cabin, and it happens to be the cabin that the storyteller is in. So he's like, at about 3 a.m., they hear this roar coming from the front of their cabin, and then all of a sudden, bang, bang, bang on the cabin door. The kids in the cabin start freaking out and running, and they're going towards the windows, and they said that they saw something running away. So this camper, again, guys, it's out in the middle of nowhere. He does have a weapon, okay? And actually, all of the stories that I read, somebody had a weapon. So I think that's great. They're protecting themselves, okay?
welcome to the South.
Thank you. So this boy goes over to one of the windows and opens it, and he starts to shoot at whatever was running away. Has no idea if he hit it or not. The next day, everybody just kept saying that it was a bear. I'm like, I'm sorry, but a bear doesn't bang on a door. It just doesn't. I understand the roar, but the banging, bears don't do that. You would hear a clawing or scraping because he's trying to open it. They're not going to bang on something. They're going to try to open it.
Knocking.
Yeah, not knocking to get in. So at this point, they're like, all the camping kids, they're going to be leaving in 3 days. Let's not worry about the bear. So they don't. Then on the last day, all the kids are gone. Thank God. It's just the camp counselors at the camp at this time.
I thought you meant they were gone, like they died.
Like, they're all gone. All the kids are gone. No, they're gone. They're home. And nothing else happened those last 3 days. So,
Okay.
of course, after all the kids leave, the counselors stay behind because they got to do pickup. They got to make sure everything's getting ready for next year, make sure everything's closed up, everything's clean, ready for them to leave. So, the last day that they're there, everybody's in the one big cabin and they're playing cards, they're chilling, and one of the counselors all of a sudden screamed, and the other counselors run over to where she was, which was at another end of the cabin. So they go over to her, and all of a sudden they also hear shots being fired from somebody's gun and more screaming. So everybody's running to that area to make sure everything's okay. And as they go over there, there is this, like, thing that's on a car. Like, they go over there, or not on a car, but they go over there to the cabin, and they see this thing running away from them, and it, like, turned into a human as it was running from them. So,
What the heck?
one of the counselors, or two of the counselors, actually ended up getting into a vehicle that was right there and chased it. And as they're chasing it, they're going like 30 to 40 miles per hour. And they said that not only was it human-like, but it was dog-like. And it was going faster than the 30 miles per hour that they were going in their vehicle until they got to the freeway. Like, they drove. They were chasing this thing. They wanted to see what the fuck was going on. And as soon as they got onto the freeway, it, like, ran off to the other side of the freeway into the woods, and it was gone. And that was it.
Yeah, the fact that it was running that fast for that long is terrifying.
Yeah. So
I told you guys, like, episode 4, that's, like, my biggest fear is when I'm, like, driving in the car and something is running at my pace. Like, that is so terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah. Freaking creepy. I want to go through one more, and then I'll be done with the Rougarou, because it's pretty much what I think is, it's like a werewolf-type creature. So, this one is not in Louisiana. It is in Texas.
No, nope.
So this
it's not.
This was Texas 2 years ago. So there's this kid in rural Texas, and he's up on his computer doing whatever kids do on their computers, and he hears like a dog outside of his window panting. And the way he was describing his window was he didn't have a screen on his window, and he didn't even have a curtain. It was just like a blanket. You know, we've all seen that. I've done it. Put the blanket over the window because you don't have anything to cover it, right? And the window was open. So he's like, okay, that's very strange. So he goes over to the window and he closes it because he's like, okay, that's weird. So that was his first, like, interaction. 2 months after that incident, he was sitting on his bed and he heard it again, like a dog was panting outside his window. And so he's looking at his window. He's sitting on his bed, and his bed is kind of underneath his window, but the window is closer to the feet and the end of his bed. So he's looking at the window, and it is open, and he is hearing this panting, and it's kind of scaring him, but he didn't get up to do anything. He kind of just sat there this time. And as he's sitting there, he notices a hand slowly coming around the blanket that is over the window. And it's
oh my god, I'm sweating so bad
right now. It's not just a hand. He described it as a very hairy hand with long, very long nails. And he's hearing this.
So a paw.
But it's not. He said it's a hand. It's not a paw. It is a hand. Okay? And he's continuing to hear this panting. And he's noticing that this hand is now becoming another hand on the other side. Like somebody is about to prop themselves up to come into the window, which is exactly what happens. He's starting to notice a form pushing the blanket open, and it's trying to come into his room. So I'm only imagining these hands on each side of the window, and then something pushing its way up into it, and it, like the blanket is over it. All right. So the kid screams at the top of his lungs because he's noticing that this thing looks like a German Shepherd coming into his house, and it has mangy, tangled together hair. The kid reaches under his bed, pulls out a shotgun, and instead of shooting it, actually takes the butt of the shotgun and whacks it in the head with it. So the creature...
Did it make a dog noise? Like,
the creature fell backward and started yelping. He didn't say screaming. He said yelping in pain. So the kid goes over to the window, pulls over the blanket curtain, and sees a creature running away from him. And he said this thing was a good 7 foot tall, a good giant-sized dog head. And yeah, it had hands, but it was running on all fours when he looked at it. He said that it was the dog man. I think it could very well be a dog man or a Rougarou or a skinwalker at that point. I do not know. But
I have
that
full body chills right now.
Right there, the way he described it coming up was like, dude, like, and he was scared. This kid was scared when that happened. So that
I'm so cold now.
Is the Rougarou, the werewolf of Louisiana. Thank you.
And Texas.
And scene.
You suck for that one.
I had to. I was like, I know, I got another one in here. But
no, I feel like let's make it off limits. Like anything Texas. Like no, I live probably like where that guy lives.
Who knows? It just said Texas 2 years ago, and I was like, all right, cool. So you will find a lot of stories of this Rougarou. It's always at night. It is always like the panting first, and then you see this dog type creature. And I couldn't find any of like people saying the Rougarou sucked my blood or I was attacked by the Rougarou. It's more like I saw the Rougarou, it was coming after me, and I was able to stop it. So I don't think it's trying to be malicious. I think it really is some type of werewolf kind of creature that doesn't know it's doing what it's doing. That's my theory.
I'm going to go with... No.
No.
I feel like, I don't know. I'm just glad that all of those people were, like, armed because...
Right?
I'm sitting here like, okay, well, I guess 10 feet away I have a gun, but... It's like a handgun. Like
I know. I was like, I got my
like,
9 always near me. I'm usually armed all the time.
I have the Dyson. The Dyson vacuum is right next to the window. I can just hit it with that vacuum.
No, I got my Ruger always like it's with like right now. I can reach over and grab it. So I'm like those people. I'm like, I think I need a shotgun now though, so I can hit something in the head with it if I can't let off a shot in my house.
What I'm saying.
But
I'll just use the Dyson vacuum.
Hit it.
Bam, hit it right.
So yeah, dude. I think it's definitely some type of werewolf that then doesn't know it's a Rougarou at first. I think the person I think the person like themselves knows that they're a Rougarou, but as soon as they change into it, I think all humanity part is gone and it's just
like instincts just take over.
Exactly. Yeah, and then it's like doesn't know what's going on. And it's just, instinct at that point.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it.
So let us know your thoughts at weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, do we want to get into mine or do we want to save it for a different episode?
No, let's get into yours.
Okay, it's not very long, so.
I know, I didn't realize mine went that long.
You're fine. I'm going to be talking about the Fresno Nightcrawlers. And initially going into this research, I thought it was like the Fresno Nightcrawler. I didn't realize it was like a multiple thing.
Mm-hmm. And who
but it's like a
recommended
multiple thing.
This to us?
This was from that Michael, so one of the girls that attended the True Crime Podcast Festival. So
yes,
she recommended us to do this. And it was actually on Naomi's list, so thank you for letting me steal this from you. Yeah, multiple. They usually travel in like pairs. So I'll get into that a little bit. And I guess this would be like a good segue into like an alien thing because I feel like they're aliens, but
I am now very intrigued. Okay, let's hear it.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about what they look like first. And there actually is footage. So there are at least 2 very solid pieces of footage out there that have been like, I don't want to say like they've been proven to be true, but like it fully looks like nobody tampered with this footage, right? Okay, so what do they look like? They're Naomi's height. They're between 3 and 4 feet tall.
I'm not that short.
And most of their height is actually made up of their legs. Oh, hello, spider. Came to die today.
Oh,
okay.
No, poor little spider.
He's just crawling along. So yeah, most of their height is actually made up of their legs. They look so strange. Like, describing the way that they look like a pair of pants, like just walking along. Like that, to me, that's what they look like. Their like upper bodies are like very tiny. They don't have any arms. The footage that's out there is bad quality. It's like not like the best quality. It's not like crystal clear, but you can see like what they look like.
Okay.
It's like a very thin white humanoid creature, and to me it doesn't look like they have any arms, so I'm gonna go with they don't have arms. Like I said, it just looks like a pair of pants. So like they appear to have like webbing that connects the knees to like the torsos, if that makes any sense. And at the end of the long legs are like these very short, tiny, like stilt-like feet. And they walk on 2 legs like humans. However, their knees bend backwards rather than forwards. Yeah,
I don't like that. It always like, I don't know what it is, but I don't like the backwards knee thing.
Yeah, but they don't like look creepy. Like, if you want to describe the way that they're walking, more so than like, it's not like bendy like that, it's more flowy. It looks like if you were to like hang up a pair of pants on a clothesline and it was like very flowy pants, they would just be flowing like in a walking motion. I don't know. It's so strange. They're like just strolling along, like out casually for a walk, like.
And they've only been sighted in Fresno. Like, this is Fresno, California, by the way.
So, oh yeah. So, which I'll get into right now. Okay. So Fresno it's in the San Joaquin Valley, so it's Southern California-ish. Well, no, it's like mid-California, but it's like between mid and Southern California. It's very close to Yosemite National Park. It's like, what, 60 miles away or something like that?
Yeah.
So the sightings that I have, which are like the 2 that everybody talks about, one was in Fresno and one was in Yosemite.
I never even thought about the fact that it's so close to Yosemite. My brain is going wild right now.
It's only like an hour and 30 minutes away.
Okay. And okay, cool.
So we're going to talk about the sighting. So some sources say that the first sighting was 2007 and some said that it was 2010. So I'm just going to say it's somewhere in between there. It's very like hard to get like solid information. Like, the guy I'm going to be talking about, his name is Jose, and I don't even have like a last name. Like, I couldn't find a last name or anything. Jose. They're super secretive and like private about it.
Oh, okay.
But basically, after a sequence of nights where his dogs were constantly barking at something that was outside, he decided to set up security cameras by like the garage. He figured that he'd probably see like a strange animal lurking or possible intruder, but what he saw on the security camera footage the next day actually made him call the police.
Okay.
So he got them involved. So the footage showed a pair of strange small creatures, both only a few feet in height, just strolling along past the camera. Like, just walking casually.
Just going for a midnight walk, you know? Yeah. Pants like to do that.
I'm telling you, they look like pants. But neither the family nor the police could figure out what the creatures were. And eventually the media like got a hold of that footage, and that's when the Fresno Nightcrawlers became like this thing, right? In March of 2011 is when the Yosemite sighting happened. So officials at the Yosemite National Park installed cameras in an attempt to catch like some trespassers that had been damaging property.
Okay.
But instead, they caught unusual footage of pale, small, armless creatures walking down one of the park paths very casually. Just pairs of pants, like going down, just sightseeing at night. The creatures appeared to be the same ones that showed up in that security footage, which it's 60 miles from Fresno. So, I mean, it's like not super unrealistic that it could have been the same two creatures, or there's just like a community of nightcrawlers just around. Yeah, I'm like really trying not to say pants every 5 minutes, but they look like pants, you guys. All right, so it's never actually been documented or reported that anyone has seen these creatures in person. It's always been on tape, which makes people question like the validity of the footage, obviously, as you would, right? But I want to say, and I could be completely wrong, I think Mythbusters actually like went out and tried to debunk this.
Really?
And they couldn't figure out any logical explanation.
I'm gonna have to find that on Mythbusters. Okay.
I could be like 1,000,000% off, but like I feel like that's what happened. So, popular theories include a new species, probably along like the primate type deal.
Okay.
But with short arms, I guess. I don't know. A misidentified deer standing upright, because again, they walk on like two legs.
Misidentified deer standing
That's what
upright.
They said. I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, but whoever came up with that theory, no, I don't. I've seen plenty of deer. I've seen plenty of deer. I've even seen albino deer. They do not look like Fresno Nightcrawlers, okay? No.
My favorite theory: pants or a puppet on a wire, which I think that's the Mythbusters thing was the pants or puppet. A bird walking like a crane.
Okay.
Which that's like a 3-foot bird is kind of like, I don't know. I'm like, birds don't have legs that are like that. Like their legs are skinny little bird legs. Like they're not like. It's just not for me. Not that one.
No, I feel like cranes can get pretty big, like a good 4 feet, I believe, like maybe even bigger.
But their legs are still
and
small.
when they walk, their knees ain't backwards. That's for sure. Like,
and they're not like. You can tell it's a bird. Like it has like a beak and it has like you know. It's not like the Fresno Nightcrawlers don't have definition like that on their face. Like you can tell there's eyes or whatever, but not like they don't have a beak.
But you can see that there's like a face there then.
The eyes is the only thing that like really
okay
was something that stood out. A person wearing big pants walking on stilts or aliens.
Okay.
So I like the alien theory. I'm going with aliens. We'll get into that a little bit.
I like the stilt because I can get into another type of cryptid that it reminds me of when I was looking at the pictures.
Okay. But you have to look at the footage because I feel like the picture that you sent me, while it was very interesting because the creature has butt cheeks,
I have to send it.
It doesn't look like the footage. Like the footage is very flowy. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, it's like not from this world. Okay. Like that's what it looks like. Or it could be like a ghost or something like that. Would be like my next thing, you know?
Yeah.
So allegedly, according to a local Native American tribe, the Nightcrawlers have lived on Earth even before humans. I really didn't even want to talk about this because I don't know who the tribe is. I can't get a name. I can't get a location. I can't get anything, right?
So you don't have enough information to even put that into the
So I don't even feel comfortable like pegging that on any Native American tribes that are in the area because I just don't think that this is accurate. That's why I said allegedly. Also, allegedly, they originally came from another planet that was boggy and swamp-like, explaining the long legs. This Native American group that is unidentified, that nobody can seem to find any more information on, supposedly said that they're part of a world. Basically, they're here to rebuild the connection between human beings and our natural surroundings, which cool. I like that idea, but I have nothing like to go by.
Right.
So that sounds fake to me. I'm just gonna mention that's all I'm gonna mention on that. There were some, I don't want to say statues, there were like carvings. I also don't want to say like totem pole because that's not what it is. Okay. I want to say it's like around the Fresno area where like it's like they look like night crawlers and nobody can figure out where these like carvings came from, but they're super super tall and it's basically like just the really long legs and then, like short tiny bodies. But also that's like been debunked because nobody knows who that's a part of or anything, and like I feel like that's just too much lacking information to be like, I like the alien theory better, you know what I mean? Like I like and that we have way less information about, but to me that makes more sense than saying like, oh yeah, this one Native American tribe, but nobody can tell you a name, this or this. So I don't know, to me it's weird.
Somebody's out there who said something about something.
Yeah, so I just feel like people are just talking to talk.
Okay.
There haven't been a lot of sightings, and again, the only sightings are like caught on video camera, which makes me think maybe it could be like a different plane that we're picking up on, or I don't know. But then the dogs are barking, so clearly like something has to be there. But then dogs can also feed off of energy. So
yeah, I was gonna say
I don't
animals
know.
Can see things that we can't half the time, or sense things that we can't.
So I don't know. That's what I have on the Fresno Nightcrawlers. I don't think that they're malicious. I don't think that they're like here to harm anybody. There's no stories about them like trying to even enter people's houses. They're literally just having a nice walk, and they're always in pairs. And one always seems like it's a little bit shorter than the other one, so maybe it's like a parent-child dynamic
or male,
something
female,
like that.
yeah.
But even that, or you know, maybe they don't even have genders. Who knows?
Oh, we don't know.
And we're just mislabeling them altogether. But yeah.
So I really like. Okay, so I got two theories on the Fresno Nightcrawlers. My first theory is that it has something to do with Lumerians, which are these short humanoid people who live in Mount Shasta. They were here before Native Americans, and they supposedly live in Mount Shasta. Of course, then there's no map on how to get to them, and they supposedly, like, how can I put this? So they were here before Native Americans because there was this other continent that then sank, so they settled in Mount Shasta, and there's this huge Native American lore about the Lumerians.
Okay.
It's not in Yosemite or Fresno, but that's kind of what it reminded me of. The description.
Right. Mount Shasta is 360 miles away from Yosemite
Exactly.
National Park. Just so you know.
Just saying. Like, it's not anywhere near it. But the descriptions of the Nightcrawlers compared to the Lumerians is completely different. So that's the only thing that I don't find commonality between. But I do like the fact that they are short. You only see them at night.
You would.
And that they're like very pale and white looking, which is what I believe the Lumerians also looked like. They were very short and they had a very fair complexion. The other thing that I'm going to have to do more research on is something called stilt walkers. That's why I
thought you were going to say fae.
Yes. So stilt walkers come from Africa, and it is actually something that they have stilt walkers, people portraying them. And oh man, so I read this book that's called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and he talks about them in his African village. It's a true story. It's his telling of his life. And he, as a child, was very scared of them, and I can't remember the exact reason why. However, the stilt walkers in Africa that I'm talking about are extremely tall, but they have the backwards knees, and they have that flowiness to them. They are human-like, but they're not human, and they have that very flowy walking kind of thing, and the whole thing was for them was just get out of their way, don't get near them, and they really only came out at night. So that's the only thing I could relate it to.
Looking at pictures of that right now,
Yeah,
and like I can see that the the flowy like costumes that they wear too.
yeah,
And then the faces are like kind of covered with just the eyes showing. So like to me that would make sense, but the height, it's the height difference. I feel like it's not related. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't know. The Fresno Nightcrawler is very interesting, especially when it's a type of cryptid that is so new. This is something new, and I don't know. We just need more evidence, guys. What do you guys?
That's
think?
one that I wouldn't mind like. I always talk about, like, oh, I'm never going to go ghost hunting. I'm never going to, like, stay in a haunted place. I'm never going to, like, go find cryptids. This is one that I wouldn't mind, like, setting up surveillance and...
Yeah.
Because, like, they're really just out for a walk. Like, they're not... I mean, that we know of, maybe, something did happen and we'll just never know because...
Yeah.
They are aliens and they abducted their... people.
Who knows?
Look at how many missing persons are in Fresno and then see like how that correlates to
don't even get me started on how many people are missing in national forests and national parks.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm like, that would be like 5 different episodes. So
right.
But yeah,
well, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about the Fresno Nightcrawlers and the Rougarou.
Yes.
But
go to all of our social media. Weird Mythic Podcast on Instagram, Weird Mythic Podcast on Twitter, Weird Mythic Podcast on Facebook. Don't forget to like, download, give us some ratings. 5 stars would be great. Send us some comments also. Let us know through the comment section or send us an email at weirdmythicpodcast.com to let us know what you think of the episode. If you have any encounters with a Rougarou, or if you know people who have seen the Fresno Nightcrawler, let us know what's up.
Please. Yay, until next week, guys.
Bye. See
Bye.
ya.